I am one self, united with my Creator. I am one self, united with my Creator. Salvation comes from my one self. Salvation comes from my one self. I am one self, united with my Creator. Serenity and perfect peace are mine because I'm one self, completely whole at one with all creation and with God. I am one self, united with my Creator. I am one self, united with my Creator. Serenity and perfect peace are mine because I am one self, completely whole at one with all creation and with God. I am one self, united with my Creator. Salvation comes from my one self. Salvation comes from my one self. From my one self, whose knowledge still remains within my mind. I see God's perfect plan for my salvation perfectly fulfilled. Salvation comes from my one self. From my one self, whose knowledge still remains within my mind. I see God's perfect plan for my salvation perfectly fulfilled. Salvation comes from my one self. I am one self, united with my Creator. I am one self, united with my Creator. Salvation comes from my one self. Salvation comes from my one self. Well, thank you all for joining me today and studying Lesson 113 in A Course in Miracles. I'm Forgiveness Willie, teaching forgiveness from the Ozarks, here for Thursday, April the 23rd of 2026. It's actually the Monday preceding that Thursday that I'm doing this recording. But thank you again for joining me on this nice spring day. Lesson 113, and we're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. For morning and evening review, Lesson 95 review, I am one self, united with my Creator. Serenity and perfect peace are mine because I am one self, completely whole, at one with all creation and with God. And review for Lesson 96, salvation comes from my one self. From my one self, whose knowledge still remains within my mind, I see God's perfect plan for my salvation, perfectly fulfilled. On the hour, I am one self, united with my Creator. And on the half hour, tell yourself, salvation comes from my one self. So remember, just a quick reminder, take 5 minutes or longer in the morning and again in the evening to review the idea and to sit and be receptive, asking God to teach you. And then throughout the day, every hour of the day, on the top of the hour, tell yourself, I'm one self, united with my Creator. And if you have the time, you can add serenity and perfect peace are mine because I am one self, completely whole, at one with all creation and with God. And then on the half hour later, tell yourself, salvation comes from my one self. And if you're able, add, from my one self, whose knowledge still remains within my mind, I see God's perfect plan for my salvation, perfectly fulfilled. Salvation comes from my one self. Okay, so you kind of got an idea of what to do today. We'll be doing this for the next week or so. Let's go back and look in our text reading, and we're in chapter 13, the guiltless world. Roman numeral 2, the guiltless Son of God. Hey, that'd be us and everyone. Okay, let's see. For you multiple year students that are wanting to read through the original edition with me this year, read chapter 12 and the last section of that section, Roman numeral 7, attainment of the real world. And then out of the book of Acts, read chapter 24, Paul's trial. And then out of Iyengar Yoga, we're doing the camel posture, page 132 and 135, kind of the backward back bend. And then which is really good if you're doing a lot of gardening because you're bending over. You want to stop and stretch the other way. Do the camel posture. Or any kind of an extreme backward bend. I like to do the Surya Namaskara, standing up and then lean back. And I'll do that out in my garden a lot. I start Surya Namaskara with my hands folded in the prayer position. And my first movement is straight up and leaning back as far as I can. And then I come back to the prayer position, and then I go down and touch my feet. So that's my beginning of the Surya Namaskara. I've got a routine I go through. But anyway, the back bend, the camel posture is what we're learning. And then out of A Course of Love, if you're liking to read that with me, which I'd encourage anybody to read this book. It's an amazing book. It'll stand on its own, or it'll go right along with Course in Miracles. But it's more of an emotional connection with the divine instead of a logical and emotional connection like A Course in Miracles is it really works on trying to help us to have reason and understand. To me, it's a very scientific manuscript, the Course in Miracles. Course of Love, I think, could be considered the same, but it comes in from the angle of feeling love and following that feeling and understanding it. So anyway, we're in Course of Love, Book 2, Chapter 2, page 241. Read that chapter. I was going to write down, what is the name of that? Did I not write it down, that chapter's name? I forgot to write down the name of it. Anyway, Chapter 2 in Book 2, page 241. All right, the guiltless Son of God. The ultimate purpose of projection is always to get rid of guilt. Yet characteristically, the ego attempts to get rid of guilt from its viewpoint only. For much as the ego wants to retain guilt, you find it intolerable, since guilt stands in the way of your remembering God, whose pull is so strong that you cannot resist it. On this issue, then, the deepest split of all occurs. For if you are to retain guilt as the ego insists, you cannot be you. Only by persuading you that it is you, says the ego, could the ego possibly induce you to project guilt and thereby keep it in your mind. In other words, you're going to blame someone for what you think they're guilty or you feeling bad. Now, and by blaming, you're actually keeping guilt alive. And that's what projection is. Paragraph 2. Yet consider how strange a solution the ego's arrangement is. You project guilt to get rid of it, but you're actually merely concealing it. You do experience the guilt, but you have no idea why. On the contrary, you associate it with a weird assortment of ego ideals, which the ego claims you have failed. Yet you have no idea that you are failing the Son of God by seeing him as guilty. Believing you are no longer you, you do not realize that you are failing yourself. When you see someone as guilty, you're not being yourself, because you're the divine, seeing everyone as a dearly beloved, as a father sees his son. Paragraph 3. The darkness of your hidden cornerstones holds your belief in guilt from your awareness. The darkest of your hidden cornerstones holds your belief in guilt from your awareness. For in that dark and secret place is the realization that you have betrayed God's Son by condemning him to death. You do not even suspect this murderous but insane idea lies hidden there. For the ego's destructive urge is so intense that nothing short of the crucifixion of God's Son can ultimately satisfy it. It does not know who the Son of God is because it is blind. Yet let it perceive guiltlessness anywhere, and it will try to destroy it because it is afraid. Now that's the ego's work. Paragraph 4. Much of the ego's strange behavior is directly attributable to its definition of guilt. To the ego, the guiltless are guilty. To the ego, the guiltless are guilty. Let him explain. Those who do not attack are its enemies, because by not valuing its interpretation of salvation, they are in an excellent position to let it go. They have approached the darkest and deepest cornerstone in the ego's foundation. And while the ego can withstand your raising all else to question, it guards this one secret with its life, for its existence depends on keeping this secret. So it is this secret that we must look upon, for the ego cannot protect you against truth, and in its presence, the ego is dispelled. In truth's presence, the ego is dispelled. What I like to think about this is just we're children of the light, and we want to walk in the light. Don't let there be anything hidden from you. I don't know how many times I've had someone come to tell me that they didn't like what somebody else was doing, and I said, well, let's talk to them all three together. And, they wouldn't like that. And I said, well, that's the only way I know how to help you. And almost every time, matter of fact, every time I can even think of, it always works out good because we shine light on the situation and misunderstandings are removed. People that are holding guilt-conscious feelings, we can kind of soften it and let them see that we're all trying. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is if we bring things into the light and not keep it in the dark cornerstones of not looking at it, then we can see healing. We can dissipate the ego's ideas of that guilt is valuable. It only keeps it alive, doesn't help the Son of God in any way. Paragraph 5. Let's read that last sentence in paragraph 4 again. So it is this secret that we must look upon, for the ego cannot protect you against truth. And in truth's presence, the ego is dispelled. 5. In the calm light of truth, let us recognize that you believe you have crucified God's Son. You have not admitted to this terrible secret because you would still wish to crucify him if you could find him. Yet the wish has hidden him from you because it is very fearful, and so you are afraid to find him. You have handled this wish to kill yourself by not knowing who you are and identifying with something else. You have projected guilt blindly and indiscriminately, but you have not uncovered its source. For the ego does want to kill you, and if you identify with it, you must believe its goal is yours. Paragraph 6. I have said that the crucifixion is the symbol of the ego. The crucifixion is the symbol of the ego. When the ego was confronted with the real guiltlessness of God's Son, it did attempt to kill him. And the reason it gave was that guiltlessness is blasphemous to God. And you can read about, I think what he's talking about is the account of, you can read about it in John chapter 10 and verse 30 through 39, where Jesus is, making himself a conduit for God, and they condemned him for being blasphemous. To the ego is God, and guiltlessness must be interpreted as the final guilt that fully justifies murder. And that's why they crucified the Christ, or Jesus. You do not yet understand that any fear you may experience in connection with this course stems ultimately from this interpretation. But if you will consider your reactions to it, you will become increasingly convinced that this is so. Paragraph 7. This course has explicitly stated that its goal for you is happiness and peace. Okay, if we really believed that, we wouldn't have any trouble digging in. Digging in and understanding. This course has explicitly stated that its goal for you is happiness and peace. Yet you are afraid of it. You have been told again and again that it will set you free, yet you sometimes react as if it is trying to imprison you. You often dismiss it more readily than you dismiss the ego's thought system. To some extent, then, you must believe that by not learning the course, you are protecting yourself. And you do not realize that it is only your guiltlessness that can protect you. Paragraph 8. The atonement has always been interpreted as the release from guilt. And this is correct if it is understood. Okay, let's look at that again. The atonement, or the atonement, has always been interpreted as the release from guilt. And this is correct if it is understood. Yet even when I interpret it for you, you may reject it and do not accept it for yourself. You have perhaps recognized the futility of the ego and its offerings, but though you do not want them, you may not yet look upon the alternatives with gladness. In the extreme, you are afraid of redemption, and you believe it will kill you. Make no mistake about the depth of this fear, for you believe that in the presence of truth, you might turn on yourself and destroy yourself. Isn't that something? Let's look at that again. The atonement has always been interpreted as the release from guilt, and this is correct if it is understood. Yet even when I interpret it for you, you may reject it and do not accept it for yourself. You have perhaps recognized the futility of the ego and its offerings, but though you do not want them, you may not yet look upon the alternative with gladness. In the extreme, you are afraid of redemption, and you believe it will kill you. Make no mistake about the depth of this fear, for you believe that in the presence of truth you might turn on yourself and destroy yourself. Little child, this is not so. Your, in quotes, guilty secret is nothing. And if you will but bring it to the light will dispel it. That's why I try and encourage everyone. Just walk in the light. Let truth be true. Take your place. If you've made a mistake, you want it to come into the light so that you can happily dismiss it forever. Not feel guilty because you did something wrong. Instead, you're free now to make a new choice, to see it a new way. Little child, this is not so. Your guilty secret is nothing. And if you will but bring it to the light will dispel it. And then no dark cloud will remain between you and the remembrance of your Father. For you will remember his guiltless Son, who did not die because he is immortal. Again on that sentence. And then no dark cloud will remain between you and the remembrance of your Father, for you will remember his guiltless Son, who did not die because he is immortal. And you will see that you were redeemed with him and have never been separated from him. In this understanding lies your remembering, for it is the recognition of love without fear. There will be great joy in heaven on your homecoming, and the joy will be yours. For the redeemed Son of God is the guiltless Son of, for the redeemed Son of Man is the guiltless Son of God, and to recognize him is your redemption. So let's see him in ourselves and everyone, the guiltless Son of God. Okay, and let's remember our lesson today. If it's at the top of the hour for you, say, I am oneself, united with my Creator. And if it's the bottom of the hour, tell yourself salvation comes from my one self. Okay, what's going on around the world today? Let's see, St. George's Day, the patron saint of England and Catalonia. Ridvan continues for the Baha'i. Canada Book Club. Army Reserve Birthday. English Language Day. And if you're a new person speaking English, thank you for joining me. Read A Course in Miracles and go along with me as you study it. Have one. You'll be able to learn to read English better. And, of course, the most important word I think we have in English is probably peace. Maybe love. Love and peace. In Spanish, it's also Spanish Language Day. And our word for peace in Spanish is what? Paz. P-A-Z. Paz. Our word for peace that I was going to use today, and I think I still will, would be from Hebrew. There on the Jordan River. And it's Shalom. Shalom be with you. Peace be with you. Let's see. German Beer Day. Impossible Astronaut Day. International Girls in Information and Telecommunication Technologies Day. International Palace's Cat Day. International Pixel Stained Techno Peasant Day. Love Your Thighs Day. Lover's Day. Movie Theater Day. Take your lover to the movie theater, huh? Cherry Cheesecake Day. Have a piece of cherry cheesecake. Not all that good for you. But you know, when I started eating less sweets, it's when I started. I never ate a lot of sweets, but when I do, I usually have it for a meal because there's so many calories, and I'll try to have something nutrient rich with it. You know, a salad. English Muffin Day, Lost Dog Awareness Day, Picnic Day, Teach Children to Save Day, Slay a Dragon Day, Talk Like Shakespeare Day, Technologies Day, World Book and Copyright Day, World Book Night, and World Laboratory Day. And we've been talking a little bit about the mullein. Let me grab a mullein leaf. I see a mullein leaf right over here at my hand's reach. Let me grab it. And I wanted to tell you a little bit more about mullein. Mullein, the Verbascum nigrum, is another. It's called the black mullein, and it basically only lists a few of its uses. It's a European plant. It probably grows in the United States too. Most of those things have been both places these days with all the travel. But it says that the black mullein has basil leaves that are about a foot long, where this, and I've seen some get about that long too, even on common or on the regular mullein. But what I noticed about it is that it's an anodyne, the black mullein, the verbascum, same genera, different species. It's a nigrum black mullein. But it says that, let's see what we find. Oh, yeah, here we go. It's anodyne and pectoral. Pectoral means it works for basically your chest. Same thing we use for the common mullein. So if you do come across a black mullein, it does say specifically that black mullein is useful for coughs, spitting blood, and other chest ailments, as well as griping and colic. Griping, take it so you won't gripe. Griping, like cramps in the intestines, like colic. And it says that externally, a fomentation, kind of like a poultice but liquidy, of black mullein is good for the pains and swelling of hemorrhoids. I expect you could use regular mullein too. Anyway, just keep in mind, there's your mullein leaf. Just so we'll probably go on to something else tomorrow, but I kind of want to finish up all the mulleins that he had listed in the herb book. And then out of edible landscaping, we've got another raspberry, and this is the double gold raspberry, Arubis idaeus double gold. And it says of the double gold raspberry is a flavorful raspberry, vigorous and disease resistant. Double gold produces a deeply blushed golden champagne-colored fruit with a distinctive conical shape. The double in its name is for its 2 harvests per season. The first year of planting, the initial crop is produced in the fall on the tips of the current year's canes. And the second crop is produced further down the same canes the following summer. In taste tests, double gold has been a favorite. Fruit is too delicate for long-distance shipping, therefore a good choice for home gardeners. Double gold is resistant to Phytophthora root rot, as well as most of the common leaf diseases. Zones 5 through 8, space 5-foot circles or 3 foot apart in 5-foot wide beds. Okay, let's close with our song. Thank you all again for joining me. I am one self, united with my Creator. Serenity and perfect peace are mine because I am one self, completely whole at one with all creation and with God. I am one self, united with my Creator. Salvation comes from my one self, whose knowledge still remains within my mind. I see God's perfect plan for my salvation perfectly fulfilled. Salvation comes from my one self. I am one self, united with my Creator. Salvation comes from my one self. And as we say in Hebrew for peace, Shalom be with you. Or pass in Spanish, or peace in English. Let's be at peace today. I am one self, united with my Creator. Salvation comes from my one self. Shalom.